Hey, everybody. So today I have somebody that I've wanted to have on the show for a very, very long time, Mr. Ben Newman, who I found out about via Alabama football. But the world now, a lot of people hear about him because he's one of the top performance coaches in the world, top 50 motivational speaker in the world, and is just doing things for the world that are just so positive, and they give me hope for humanity. Hearing him talk, it just gives me the goosebumps sometimes because it shows, and what Ben, in my opinion, really does is tries to show humanity that there's so much more within us that we're not tapping into. But his whole point behind performance coaching is to get that potential out of us. So Ben, I appreciate you coming on the show today. And you know, the name of the show is the One Life Podcast. And the goal is to bring people on that will enable us to develop the internal tools required to take full advantage of the one life we have to live. And I believe that's what you do for a living, Ben, is teach people these things. So thank you for being here with me today.
Well, Devin, I appreciate it. And that is what I have the blessing to be able to do every single day. And it's a result of you and all of the men and women who provide the freedom that we have here in the United States. I don't take that lightly, and I appreciate all the kind things that you say, but none of that is possible without the men and women who serve our country, who are tucked away in nooks and crannies around this world, fighting for us to have our freedom. And unfortunately, I don't believe that there's enough recognition given to that. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your fight. My family appreciates it. And I wouldn't have the opportunity to do what I do without you. So thank you for your service.
Well, of course, Ben, thank you. And having you here is a real honor and treat. So I want to jump right into it, Ben. When we're talking about high performance and you being a high performance coach, when you come into an organization or you're working with an individual one-on-one and someone comes to you and says, hey, I either want to turn around my life personally and I want to enhance my performance as an individual or as an organization, what are some of the first things that you do coming in that you look at and say, okay, now that I know this is where we're going to go?
Well, first off, before I answer that question, which I will answer that question, I think it's important that we take a couple of steps back. You know, I have had to face a tremendous amount of challenge and adversity in my life. I had to grow up very, very fast. And so as a result of that, I've been blessed to have mentors and coaches who have continued to pick me up off that mat of life during the times that I did not want to do it. And I still have great mentors and coaches. I still have two coaches. So no matter what you say about this ranking or that ranking or this in the world or that in the world, I still have two coaches. I read books every day and I am far from figuring this thing out. I'm trying to get better myself. But I have found that there's a great consistency in the highest performers in the world. The highest performers in the world, they don't just tell us how great they want to be. We can have a conversation with their action, and their action will show us how bad they really want it. And I think we're in a period of time in this country where there's lots of fears, doubts, and uncertainties. And some of them are very warranted. Other times, we as adults, because we face so much challenge and adversity, we build this skyscraper in our imagination as to how bad a situation is, when maybe it really isn't that bad. And oftentimes, and it's difficult to watch, it results in people sitting on the sideline waiting to see what happens. Devin, they'll tell us how great they want to be, but they're not taking the action. So to answer your question, I would actually ask a question for everybody listening. Based upon your goals and your vision, don't you know what you need to do every day? You probably actually know what you need to do on a daily basis. But far too often, we fall short of consistently doing the things that we need to do. Take it, for instance, you're an ultra marathon runner, which I think is nuts. I've run one marathon just to be able to say that I did it. I thought my legs were going to fall off when I was done. But you run ultra marathons. We can talk about that at other times. I don't know how you get your body to do something like that. But when you run an ultra marathon, Devin, you know what you need to do. So you either prepare and you train, or you show up and you don't finish the race. And so you clearly know, you probably studied when you had a vision, I want to run an ultra marathon. Here's what I need to do to run an ultra marathon. And you're either going to do the work or not do the work. You're going to train or not train. So oftentimes we know what we need to do. And I would just encourage everybody, stay connected to what drives you, stay connected to your fire, and identify the work, which you probably already know what the work is, that's going to cause you to have the highest probability of following through with your vision.
You hit on something there, Ben, that I really want to touch on, and that is the fact of having that vision. Because I feel like that's where a lot of us are lacking in our lives, is that we don't have that something to enhance our performance, to excite us, get us up in the morning. And I'm curious as to with your work with some of the top athletes in the world. I mean, you look at Alabama produces the top talent in the country. In terms of having that vision, how clearly defined do the top performers that you've interacted with, how clearly defined is that vision that they hold in their head of where they want to be in the future and who they want to become?
Well, believe it or not, before we even talk about vision, I want to win a national championship with my team. I want to win a Heisman Trophy. I want to win a Bolitnikoff Award. I want to be, all SEC, whatever those goals are. You don't start there. What I always do is I start with that burn, that fire that lies inside of all of us. For all of us, there's a lot of coaches and speakers. Let me take a step back. A lot of coaches and speakers that do the work that I do. They talk about why and they talk about purpose, but they actually forget to talk about that fire, that burn that lies inside of all of us that actually ignites the why and the purpose that then causes you to take the necessary action, or causes you to give yourself permission to say, I will go after that vision because I understand the fire that lies inside of me that's going to cause me to fight on the days that I don't want to do it. I've had the blessing of working in Alabama for 5 years. Within the first 5 minutes of my first talk with the Alabama football team, first 5 minutes of spending time with this incredible organization, they knew the story of my mother passing away. They knew my mother coming to the dinner table with an IV stand with 24-hour nursing care in our house when I was a 7-year-old boy to ask me how my day was at school. They knew that my parents were divorced when I was 6 months old and never knew them together. They knew the pain and challenges that I went through with my father after my mother passed away. They knew my story, Devin, and they knew that there was a fire inside of me as a result of what I had been through that ignites my why and my purpose, that causes me to show up and do what I say I'm going to do on a daily basis. After I shared that story within 5 minutes, I asked all the players, I said, hey, I've done this enough times to know I'm not the only one that has a story. Each and every single one of you has a story. You have a burn that lies inside of you. We could say that to all your listeners right now. I'm not the only one who's had loss. I'm not the only one who's experienced pain. I'm not the only one who's been through challenge. But far too often, we don't slow down enough to connect to that perspective that's going to cause you to fight. I call it the burn. That's the name of our podcast, The Burn. And so I think it really starts, Devin, with individuals identifying what is that burn that lies inside of you that's going to ignite that why and the purpose, that's going to cause you to take the necessary action to go and tackle that vision and to think big enough to give yourself permission to make the vision something that might scare the hell out of you. But if the burn's bright enough, you'll work hard for it every day.
So, Ben, does that burn come from different places for different people? For instance, you had mentioned a lot about your past and how that fueled you going forth into your future. Could the burn also be something that you were born with, such as your calling, or if someone's a godly person, what you feel God put you on this earth to do?
Without question. That's a fantastic thought and observation. The burn is individual for everybody. A lot of people say, well, Ben, I haven't been through the challenge and adversity that you've been through. I'm certainly glad that you haven't. I would never wish that somebody before they turn 8 years old would have to see what I saw with these two eyes before I turned 8. I would never wish that upon anybody. So I hope your burn is not what my burn is. So the burn can be something temporary. The burn can be something, I typically don't like when people have something that it's monetary, right? It's materialistic. But you know what? If you're struggling with the concept of what you're fighting for, maybe it is something short-term that's materialistic, right? Maybe it's taking your mom or your dad on a vacation because they haven't been in years. Maybe your parents couldn't afford it. That gives you an amazing burn to take them on vacation. Or maybe it is God. God gave us everything that we need. But going back to how we started this interview, you have to choose to do something with it. God's not going to do the work for you. God's going to give you the strength, but you got to choose to do the work. And if your burn is something with the strength that God has given you to use it every day, imagine if you connect to that every single day. You wake up and that's the first thought that goes through your mind. I'm going to take everything that God's given me one day at a time. How could you not follow through and perform if that relationship with God is meaningful enough to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for me, that's something that I could always rely on. And I hope and wish that a lot of other young people would realize the strength that the faith can have. Well, if you have faith, the effect that it could have on you and going forth and pursuing what you need to pursue, because you realize it's not about you at the end of the day. You're only a vehicle for a greater purpose. So, but with that being said, Ben, I want to know about, well, a big talk nowadays with performance is morning routine, evening routine. And what advice would you give on structuring an evening or morning routine? And what is the importance of doing something like that in the realm of high performance?
Yeah, so morning routine is absolutely critical in my opinion. And it's not just my opinion, it's research that I've done. It's having the opportunity to work with some of the highest performers in the world. Those highest performers in the world, you are not going to find one that does not have a morning routine. I've also found for me, I have to follow through with my morning routine to take on the adversity and challenge that the world throws at us. And so, morning routine for me is critical. We're actually on the third edition of Your Mental Toughness Playbook. It has the 6 mental training tools that we put to the test with our professional athlete clients, collegiate athlete clients, corporate clients. And one of those tools is Your Prize Fighter Day morning. It's a subset of Your Prize Fighter Day. So I'm a huge believer that we have to design our morning to do the things that mentally prepares us to take on our day. And if you're hitting the snooze button too many times, you're not eating a healthy breakfast, you're not centered and focused or present with your family before they go off to school or they go off to work, how could you possibly expect that you're going to be ready for your day? So I'm being direct because I care that much. We choose how we wake up. We choose the design of our mornings. We choose the design of our day. We choose the design of our behaviors. My mother taught me the greatest life lesson I've ever learned. It's not how long you live, it's how you choose to live your life. And to be direct, if you feel chaos in your morning, if you feel like the day just starts and everything's getting thrown at you, there's probably an area of opportunity for you to design a morning routine that will put you in position to win more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even in my own experience, it's something that has made a tremendous difference. Just that mental clarity as soon as you wake up compared to the bombardment, like you had said. Now, Ben, I think a thing that does not get recognized enough when thinking about high performance is the impact that the pursuit of high performance could have on other areas of your life, such as your life with your family, or even sometimes if someone's chasing a monetary goal, the impact it could have on your fitness or something else, roles competing against one another. Now, my specific thing is though, in terms of high performance with someone like athlete who is constantly doing 1,000 things during their day, they don't have a lot of time for anything else. How can one avoid the pitfall of allowing their relationships to fall to the side on their pursuit of greatness?
Yeah, so we have, and this is a tool that I've been using for 15 years in our coaching work. And I hope everybody just heard what I said, 15 years. Okay, this is not stuff that's happened overnight. I've been doing this for 15 years. And we call it a prize fighter day. A prize fighter day is made up of choices that are personal, professional, or athletic driven, and service based. And I'm a big believer in balance. I think there are far too many individuals who have the coaching opportunity and influence, and they're sharing with individuals that balance does not exist. Work really, really hard and take time off. That is a cop out of a message. And typically, the messenger lacks discipline in their life in order to have balance. And so, for me, I believe we can't reach our highest state of peak performance without that balance. So, personally, I know that if I'm working with an athlete, getting in touch with their family, getting in touch with their friends, maybe it's putting their head in a book like the Bible that's very important to them. Maybe it's doing reading. Maybe it's a podcast or doing something positive for themselves. Choosing something personally that's 100% their choice. Same for a business professional. Professionally or activity based, there are choices that we make every single day. You either do it or you don't do it. Let's take somebody in sales rather than giving the athletic example. Let's move to a sales example. If you know, this goes back to what I mentioned earlier, we all know what we need to do. So somebody in a sales role, when we do sales training, I call them POCs, point of contact. So a point of contact, it's a text message, it's an email, it's a phone call, it's our voice out to the world. I'm open for business. So if you know that 20 times in a day, for you to know that you've given it your very best, you have to share with the world, I'm open for business, however you reach out, so that you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, today I gave it my very best. Because that's how winning is done. It's your ability to look in the mirror and say, today I gave it my very best. If you can do that, nobody can ever take that away from you, and you can never ask any more of yourself than your very best. Well, if you know that 20 POCs is your best, that's how you define a great day professionally. Not, oh, I sold something today. You selling something is a byproduct of you doing the work yesterday or the day before or 3 months ago when you planted the seed for the sales. That's why we have to do the work every day. And then John Wooden, arguably one of the greatest coaches to ever coach anything, wrote more best-selling books in his 90s than 99% of best-selling authors, 10 championships in 12 years at UCLA. Coach Wooden used to say, you cannot have a great day until you've done something for somebody else with no expectation of anything in return. So imagine if one time per day, we decide to do something good for others. We design what the business action steps are that cause us to win. And personally, that's balance, isn't it, Devin? And so we have to stop making the excuse. What comes out of your mouth goes into your ears, and that's what you believe. So if you're telling yourself, or your messenger that's sharing with you, balance doesn't exist, and that goes in your ears and you believe that, well, what's your action going to dictate? That balance doesn't exist. You're going to forget the personal. You're going to make excuses why you're not going to work out. You're probably going to eat like shit, and you're probably not going to do anything for other people. When the reality is performing at your highest possible level, it's discipline and consistency to the choices that it takes to be your best one day at a time. I get fiery because I care that much, because there's too many people who aren't hearing the real messages, right? We're being, just hugged and coddled and everything's going to be okay. And the reality is, I will love on people till the day is long. But if I know that you have it in you to connect to the burn that drives you, to unleash that fire, to go be the best that you can be, why would we sugarcoat that messaging and act like it's okay to wait on the sidelines? It's not, because you have everything that you need to go get it.
Oh, that was good, Ben. That was really, really good. I love that. All of that, specifically the last part that you had just said, because I do feel like it is somewhat of a sensitive world we could live in sometimes, with always wanting to be coddled, like you said. So thank you for sharing that. And the service piece also.
And hold on, and let me say one thing. I'm an emotional guy. I cry when I watch Extreme Home Makeovers. So I don't want anybody to mistake this. Don't be emotional. Ben has no feelings or emotions. This guy's just too intense. I'm just as emotional, but I'm not going to accept excuses. And if your mentors and your coaches are allowing you to accept excuses, you're never going to reach your peak performance. I'm sorry, it's just the truth.
So would you say in that case that self-awareness is one of the biggest components in terms of increasing your performance? Because I think everything that you just said was being real with who you are, even if other people in the world are telling you that you're not that way.
I don't say this to impress anybody. It's to impress upon the point. Okay. And I say this very humbly. You're never going to find me on the cover of a fitness magazine, but I stay in pretty darn good shape. And one of the reasons why I stay in pretty darn good shape is when I walk in with the Kansas State football team, or when I walk in with the Alabama football team, or when I walk in with one of the NFL players that I'm blessed to work with, or I walk in with a high-level professional business athlete, right? A CEO, and she's running her business and killing it. I better not walk in looking like I just ate a bag of donuts. I better walk in looking like I have my act in line. And you have to have self-awareness. If I was overweight, if I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do, it would come out in how I coached, because I couldn't hold somebody accountable to the behaviors that I'm not performing myself. And so I'm a big believer in that, Devin. Self-awareness is huge, and it makes a difference when you're showing up in your life, doing what you say you're going to do. How can I possibly hold a player at Alabama, even though I don't put on the pads, but how can I have a conversation with them about pushing the limits if I don't push them myself in my own life.
100%. People follow what you do, not what you say. And that's something that we, lead from the front. That's always something you hear in the military as well. So 100% can attest to that, Ben. So I'm curious, we only have a few minutes left. If you could give us 3 of the top characteristics that you've noticed in high performers, 3, what would they be?
So I'll give you the word legacy. Okay, so I think legacy is that burn piece, right? So there's a deep rooted conviction and understanding why they do it and the impact they want to make because of their action. I would say it's discipline. The highest performers have tremendous discipline. They are willing to do what it takes. One of the highest producing financial advisors in the world is a client of mine. His name is Claudio. He's given me permission to share this. We've worked together for over 7 years. He does millions of dollars of sales per year, millions of dollars of sales. It's amazing the impact that this young man has in his mid-30s. And I asked him one time, what makes you great? And he said, man, he goes, it doesn't matter what I did yesterday. It doesn't matter what I think I'm going to do tomorrow. If I don't show up and do what I said I was going to do today, the amount of guilt that I live with is too much for me to handle. I'd rather just do the work. That speaks to discipline, standard over feelings. He lives to a standard rather than allowing his feelings to dictate how he shows up. And the third thing I would share would be toughness. The highest performers in sports and in business, they have tremendous toughness. They get knocked down, they're ready to get back up and keep fighting.
Whew, that was good, especially Claudio. That's something right there, man. That guy shows up. It sounds like he's getting me. I might have to get him on this show or something. He's getting me a little fired up through you. Oh man, Ben. So the second to last question I would like to ask is, it kind of just came to me as you were talking. I'll recall in preparation for my ultra marathon that I ran about a month ago today, actually. 1 month ago, was that I was deliberately waking up at about 3 a.m. and trying to catch the rain as it came down on me, like hoping, please come and rain on me. And the whole reason why I would do something like this is I'm a big believer that mental toughness isn't something that you can magically snap your fingers and you have it. It's something that is built up by intentionally putting yourself in positions of discomfort. So in your opinion, this, by the way, if in my opinion, it looks different for everybody. Everybody does something different. For somebody else, it might be just going for a walk. That's where they're at in their journey. But what is the benefit of putting yourself in positions of discomfort, in your opinion? Because I see far too many people just staying in that comfort zone, not doing anything else, not being willing to step out. But what if they do step out, the things on the other side is everything that they ever imagined. So what's the importance of that to you?
So Dr. Jason Selk is one of the most significant mentors that I've had in my life. And he always says, making yourself uncomfortable speeds up the process of mental toughness. Making yourself uncomfortable speeds up the process of mental toughness. If you're doing your workout and in the middle of your workout, you say to yourself things like, I'm getting it done today, but I could probably give a little bit more. And then you choose to not give more because you're just going to finish your workout. So I could say I did my workout. You're not uncomfortable. It's a choice to push yourself to be uncomfortable. And I'm a big believer in creating an uncommon mindset. I know the flavor of how I talk, the flavor of how I push. It's not for everybody, Devin. There's some people who are going to say, this guy's got some screws loose. He's wired wrong. There's something right. This guy's too intense for me. And that's okay. You know, maybe we would get along and we could go have a beer together and a great conversation. You'll realize I am a big teddy bear and I do love on people, but you'll realize that if we have an opportunity to work together, we're going to push because we're going to get uncomfortable because God gave it to you and you got a choice to go take it every single day. So from a coaching standpoint, it's why I work with high performers. It's not for everybody, but for those who choose it, who stay connected to their burn, who attack that unrequired mindset, doing the things that other people are unwilling to do, and they're willing to attack it every single day, you write one hell of a story that causes you to fall in love with the process to just keep getting up every single day and seeing how great you can be.
Well, Ben, is that to say, because I know what I could just hear what people are saying, is that to say that high performers don't ever have days that they struggle or days that they don't do what's required? Is that what, do high performers ever have those days?
Well, of course they do. And of course I have those. And of course there are going to be people who say that. And there are going to be people who are going to act. They're going to have listened to this whole interview and act like I didn't make the statement earlier that I have two coaches. I read books every day and I'm trying to figure it out. Right. So let me say that again. I have two coaches. I read books every day because I'm still trying to figure it out. I screw up all the time. I wake up and have days where I don't want to eat right. I wake up and have days where I want to skip my workout, but I have learned that I have to, because I'm fighting to be the best example I can be for my children and to be the best example I can be for the people who have given me the blessing of the opportunity to work with them to push to be their best. That causes me to do it. Do I have the thoughts? Yes. The conversations don't last very long, and I will take action. That's the same that you find with highest performers. Doesn't mean they don't have bad days. Doesn't mean that we don't fail. But when I fail, I tend to fail forward, see what I can learn, build strength from it, and keep moving. But I will get up off that mat of life. I can promise you that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ben, last question here is, when you think about your life and what it is that you're building, what is the legacy that you hope to leave behind, and really the contribution that you had on the world?
Well, for me, it's all about my mother and her legacy. You know, my mother passed away 11 days before my 8th birthday. My mother passed away at 38 years old. I'm 42. I've been given 4 extra years, one day at a time. That's a gift that my mother never got. And so for me, I fight as hard as I possibly can to carry on my mother's legacy, to carry on her name, to carry on the lessons that she taught me to my children and hopefully to others, that they can show up in their lives and write significant legacies. All of that together, and we're all in this fight together, I believe, if you're willing to fight the fight with me. The big goal is to impact 1 billion people. And that billion is really going to be a testament to carrying on my mother's legacy. And she had this journal where in her journal, when she was dying, she would write, beat the statistics, beat the odds, live with a disease that is chronic and fatal, believe in yourself, combat anything, purpose in life. And on November 2nd, 1986, she took the pen that she was writing with in that journal and she passed it on to my brother and I. And all I hope for one day is when I take that pen and I pass it on to my children, that they've got all the tools that they need to continue to write my mother's story, not my story, but to keep my mother's story going.
I love that, Ben. Thank you for sharing that, because I have a similar story with my grandmother, and it's unbelievable the impact that people in our lives could have on us for the duration of our lives. And she's still living. I could tell she's living through you, Ben. So thank you for sharing that. Well, without further ado, Ben, where can people find you if they would like to stay in contact with you, social media, anything, anywhere you want people to find you?
Yeah, so it's right there on the screen, at Continued Fight. That's the Instagram handle. That's probably the very best way. That's also Twitter. Those are the two platforms where I am most active. And on Instagram, you're getting me every single morning. So that's me putting out my thoughts, what's on my mind. It comes super early in the morning. You'll see I do believe in a morning routine, but would love to stay connected and see what we can do to continue to help. And also, if anybody's interested in our next book that comes out on August 3rd, called Uncommon Leadership, please send a DM with the word uncommon to Continued Fight. And also, if you're interested in our free Prize Fighter Day course, because, for me, it's all about the action. It's the least I can do for, somebody, Devin, like yourself, who's given me the opportunity to do this, because of your work carrying weapons, putting yourselves in harm's way for my family, I would love to, for the military, as well as your followers and listeners, just send the word prize fighter via DM to at Continued Fight on Instagram. And if you're interested in both, just send those two words, uncommon, and then prize fight.
Boom. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate all of that. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. I got so much out of this, and I can only imagine how much the audience got. So, Ben, thank you so much. And I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Devin, God bless you. Thank you for your service. And I appreciate you more than you realize, brother.